we kicked off a huge rally. Lots of people there to send off our ticket around the state. Over the next 4 days, we're going to be traveling around Minnesota, visiting with voters, making sure that they hear our message, our optimistic, positive-looking, forward-looking vision on how actually we're going to build Minnesota, and a Minnesota that works for everyone. And we've got the ticket to do that. Before we get into all of our candidates who've been on the road and traveling, I wanted to introduce a couple candidates who've been working right here in Rochester so hard. I want them to say a few words because I'm so excited about the candidates we have running for the state legislature. And you know what? One, we have a lot of young candidates like these two running, but most importantly, we have candidates that are running high energy campaigns, knocking on doors, marching in parades, talking to voters, raising the money they need to, and inspiring people to action. And so the first candidate I want to introduce is Tyrell Clark. Tyrell?
Thank you, I really appreciate it. Welcome to Rochester, where it's always sunny. That being said, my name is Tyrell Clark. I am the current mayor of Yoda, and I'm running for House District 26B. It really is an honor to be running as a DFLer. I've been looking at this for years and years, and you know, I'm really proud to be on this ticket, and I'm really proud that we have the candidates who we do. Over the years, we've seen lots of great candidates, and this year we are seeing some fabulous ones, and I'm really proud to be on the ticket with them.
Yeah! Thank you. Next is someone, and I want to just say a little bit more of an introduction about Jamie, because I said this when I was down here a couple months ago and introduced her at, spoke at an event of hers. Right after the election in 2016, I think many of us, myself included, were pretty depressed about the results and feeling pretty down in the dumps. And I remember coming down here to Rochester, right in this room actually, and I met Jamie for the first time, and she told me that she wasn't depressed, she was fired up, and she was ready to run, and that she was going to do it. And here we are, just 89 days left, I think, until the election, and she's going to be the next state representative here. She inspired me, and I think a lot of people, to get off the ground, dust your shoes off, and get back in the fight, and I mean that. I really appreciate that conversation. So please welcome the next state representative, Jamie Mulder.
Welcome to my town of Rochester. We all have an amazing opportunity to participate in our democracy. In fact, democracy only works when we participate in it, and so I think it's so exciting to see so many people here, to be running with so many wonderful people. Like I said, 2 years ago, if you had asked me if politics was in my future, I would have laughed at you. But I think the same values that I hold true, which is this primary value that opportunity is for everyone, it's the same thing that drove me to become an educator at a community college, and it's the same value that drove me to run for the Minnesota House of Representatives. So thank you so much for being here, and make sure that you encourage others to vote. It's just such an amazing opportunity that many people around the world don't have, and we have it. So just please, please, please take advantage of that opportunity, and thank you all. And it's an exciting time to be running as a Democrat. So, all right, go team.
One of the offices we've been hearing a lot about the last few days in the press is the Attorney General's office. Let me say one of the things I'm really excited about is our endorsed candidate, Matt Pelican, who has a vision on how we actually return progressive values to that office, how we make sure that, and Aaron remembers back under Skip Humphrey when that office was the preeminent law office in the state and in the country, frankly. People from all over came to work there because of the work they were doing on behalf of consumers, the work they were doing on behalf of all Minnesotans. And I'm super excited to actually get Matt elected on Tuesday and return that office to strong progressive values. Please welcome our next Attorney General, our DFL endorsed candidate, Matt Pelican.
Good afternoon, Democrats. We are so happy to be here. I will tell you, this is a big, beautiful state. It's a privilege to campaign in every part of it, and we have to do that. We have to go statewide and engage voters everywhere in Minnesota. It has been one of the most humbling and parts of my life to travel the state as the DFL endorsed candidate for Attorney General. And as we heard, it was tough right after Election Day in 2016. And I knew then that the only way forward was for each and every one of us to dig deeper and get more involved, not less. And sometimes it's still hard to pick up the newspaper. Sometimes it's hard to open Twitter. But we have to keep going. We have to keep digging. With your help, with these great candidates at the local and statewide level, not only can we win next Tuesday and on November 6th, we will win. So thank you all for what you guys are doing here. I've been involved in Minnesota law and politics for over 20 years. I woke up after Trump's election and felt called to run for the first time. I looked around, I saw great candidates stepping up all over the state, but I saw an attorney general's office that used to set the standard for consumer protection, for fighting for equal rights, for protecting our environment, and I knew it needed strong and progressive and frankly ethical leadership again. No one else was willing to stand up and talk about that. I got into this race a year ago and led a year-long grassroots campaign, and with your help and help from people around Minnesota, we got the DFL endorsement, so thank you all very much. It hasn't always been an easy road to this endorsement or to standing here at this microphone, from facing the literal fists of bullies as a gay kid in small-town Minnesota to standing up and fighting an entrenched 12-year incumbent for my own party. I have gone down that hard path, but I will tell you, as your Attorney General, I will never back away from a hard fight. We need elected leaders who are willing to stand up and take on the difficult fights, the hard path, because that's what it's going to take to make the differences we need in our society, in our economy, and for equal rights. There are some great candidates here. I am so honored to be on a ticket that represents all Minnesota, that looks like all of Minnesota, that's fighting for all of Minnesota. So I'm going to hand the microphone back in a minute, but I'd like to end by asking a few questions. I say it's not a deposition, I give you the answers. The first answers are no. Are we going to sit back and watch while they rip apart families at the border and in our own communities? No! Are we going to sit back and listen to this false choice between promoting economic opportunity and protecting our environment? No! Are we going to sit around while Tim Polanyi comes back to the state capitol for 4, let alone 8 more years? No! Hell no is an acceptable answer. So the next answers are yes. Looking around this room and the dedicated activists right here in Rochester who are showing up every day to make a difference, are you proud to be Minnesotans? Yes! Do we live in the most beautiful state in the country? Yes! Have you already voted, or are you going to vote on or before August 14th? Yes! Are you going to vote on or before November 6th? Yes! Between now and those historic elections, are you going to door knock, phone bank, open your wallets, and help elect progressive candidates? Yes! And the most important question, do you believe that politics can make a positive difference in people's lives? Yes! Thank you all Democrats very much. Thanks for what you're doing.
How about a last guess? Are you ready to vote for Matt Pelican? So I want to say a few words about someone who couldn't be here today, who also has a primary on Tuesday. It's really important, and I see a couple of her organizers here right now. Is our great Senator Tina Smith. And I got to tell you, she's been working tirelessly for us in a short amount of time with a really short ramp. Imagine trying to go in, learn the rules and the ropes of the U.S. Senate while at the same time trying to run for this seat. She's done a wonderful job representing all of us Minnesotans in Washington, and I'm so proud of her candidacy. And she needs your vote on Tuesday. You know, lost in all of this focus on the governor's race is the other primaries that we have on the ballot, up and down the ticket. And I want to make sure that you know that Tina's working hard for you. She wishes she could be here today. And if you're excited like I am to help her out, please talk to her organizers here and sign up and help out, okay? We need to get Tina elected. Are you going to do that?
Yes!
So the next candidate that I'm super excited about, she calls herself a nerd for some reason, but you know, she probably owns it, and she'll tell you why. But I'll tell you what, Julie has done a terrific job representing the best of our DFL values. When we talk about the L in DFL, which stands for labor, Julie epitomizes that. Most of you know of her work over the years in Education Minnesota as a teacher, helping to lead the teachers in the Anoka-Hennepin School District, and then helping her union lead into this 21st century. Not only that, she became the I believe you were the first woman to be the secretary-treasurer of the?
First secretary-treasurer and second ever to be an executive officer.
The
yeah.
first woman secretary-treasurer of the state AFL-CIO, where she's helping to make sure that workers throughout this state and frankly throughout this country not only are represented, but that we can lift up their voices. And at the end of the day, we're, and Julie and all of us who care about labor and workers, she's been out there on the front lines. And you know what? She's going to take that same passion, energy, and skill set to our state auditor's office. Please welcome the next auditor, Julie Block.
Great introduction. Again, I'm Julie Blaha, and as a math teacher and as a former treasurer of a multi-million-dollar organization, to get me to not talk about spreadsheets is a big deal. But I want to talk about what last Tuesday means about next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. I'll tell you, a lot of us were up late watching that night, and what I was watching for particularly as a labor leader was the vote in Missouri on the right to work law. What we saw in Missouri was they were the first state to turn back a right to work law, just like Minnesota, if you think back, was the first state to turn back a particular law that had made a big deal. So I thought a lot about what was important about that race. What was important about that? It was really telling. Now, they beat back right to work, and know that right to work is arguably the biggest attack on organized labor in the last 2 decades. It has decimated some unions. It threatens to destabilize even more. But Missouri voters fought it back. And the people who voted for that, 2-to-1, were not labor union members. They were not union members, but still said yes to organized labor. It was because they were able to not just vote in their own personal interests. No, they were voting for the greater good, and that is really important. But I think the most important part of that win, which is great for us, is that they won that race in the same way we won marriage equality. They won it with one-to-one conversations. It was simply the most powerful tactic that we used in any of those races. And that's where you all come in. And since I don't have a primary, and as much as I'm feeling a little survivor guilt for that, because I can have a really good day on this, we get to go out and we get to bring all that success forward. Because that's what you'll be doing. You'll be doing the single most important thing you can do in politics today. The single most effective way to affect change. You're going to talk to your neighbors. It's going to be people like you talking to neighbors like these and making sure they know that their vote matters, that they're going to make a difference, and it's going to work because you are the people they believe. You are. People may see our pictures on things, but you're the ones that they believe, and you're the ones that they trust. You are the ones who are going to get us over that finish line. It's going to be you. And I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for standing up and doing the most powerful thing you can do to make change, talking to people. So you all get out there, grab a turf, and we're going to win. Thank you so much.
You know, I was thinking about this, and I forgot to say this when I introduced our next speaker, who's going to be our next lieutenant governor. But, you know, I think people make the mistake in politics of trying to judge someone's experience or leadership based on how long they've served in office. I think it's a really unfair measurement because, frankly, I know a lot of people who've served in office. Some of them for way too long, frankly, who have done a lot less than what Erin May Quaid has done in her short 2 years in the state legislature. And if everyone took what she did in those 2 years and actually did that while they were in the legislature, our state and our country would be better off for it. You see, Erin believes, like I do, that when you're given power, you should use it. You should actually use it. Don't sit on your hands. People entrusted you to do something. Go up there. Do something. I'm sick and tired of Republicans and, yes, some Democrats who get elected to office and forget why they ran in the first place. They forget that there are people who want them to do something for their lives, and they're relying on them to do something for their lives. That's what Erin May Quaid's done in the state legislature. From the very beginning, I can't tell you that that freshman class that's come in has proven that, you know what? We're going to go up there and we're going to be responsible, but we're going to throw caution to the wind in this regard. We're not there, they're not there just to worry about their next election. They're there to do some good, and that's what she's done. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next Lieutenant Governor, Erin May Quaid.
Than it is outside, so I have like a tight 30 minutes and then I'll let, I'm just kidding. I'm State Representative Erin May Quaid. I'm the DFL endorsed candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I am so excited to be here with all of you, and let me tell you why. When I ran for office in 2016, people had a lot of advice for me. Not great advice. They told me not to talk about my wife, have a professional relationship with your wife in public. They told me not to talk about racial justice. They told me not to talk about guns. Don't talk about guns in the suburbs. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about all of those things because people in my community were talking about those things. And I ran and I organized because I've been an organizer. And in 2016, I was the only person who flipped a seat in the state house from Republican to Democrat. And I was very excited to do that. Advice is because I took some really good advice from Erin Murphy. I met her in 2006 when she ran for State House for the first time. She came to campus. She was telling everyone they got to vote. And we were like, all right, politician, we're going to vote. Don't worry about it. You can leave. Goodbye. And she was like, hold on. Yes, voting is important. And I will say it again. Voting is important. But you have to get involved. She told us you have to get involved. Now, for me, that was a long game she was playing there because 12 years later, I'm her running mate. But I did get involved, and I started organizing. And so when I decided to run, and people were telling me not to be myself and not to talk about the things I cared about, Erin Murphy told me to run as my full self. And this phrase that I have in my mind all the time is, how big is your brave? And I think what Erin Murphy thinks about all the time is how powerful are Minnesotans. How powerful are Minnesotans? She knows how powerful we are together. And so when I think about the big things that we have to get done, the big issues that we have to tackle, I take comfort in knowing the work that got done when Erin Murphy was in charge before. Because when Erin Murphy was in charge, we passed all-day kindergarten. When Erin Murphy was in charge, we passed minimum wage. When Erin Murphy was in charge, we passed marriage equality, and I'm thankful for that every single day. So when we're looking at the big issues that we have to tackle, racial disparities, affordable housing, single-payer healthcare, clean land, air, and water, building and funding a mental health care system in Minnesota, Erin Murphy is the person I trust, and I joined her because we are powerful leaders and we are ready to lead. So, here's what I want to know from all of you. It's GOTV, which means get out the vote, but I really think it means get out your voice. Are you ready to get out your voice? Yes. Are you ready to knock the doors? Are you all in? Yeah. Are you all in? Yeah. We are all in and so excited. Thank you so much for having us here. Let's do this. Let's win.
I do want to mention our senior senator who's not here, but her two organizers, Kamal and Grace, are here. I'm sorry, I knew that. Thank you both for being here. Also, Amy needs your help, so see them if you want to sign up for some shifts. But before we end here, I want to just say it is, I sometimes pinch myself when I get to introduce my friend Erin Murphy. I never thought in a million years I'd be standing here doing that. But I am. And I did believe when she decided to run that I would be here, standing here, because I knew of the politics that she has always practiced. I've known her for 21 years. And you see, I always judge people by what they do, even when they don't have to do it. I think about that for a second. See a lot of people who maybe put on a face and put on a persona, maybe a little bit of an act, and that's not Erin. As long as I've known Erin, when we talk about the politics of joy, that's Erin Murphy. She's always had a smile on her face, a half glass full attitude about what we can do, a sense that we can accomplish the impossible, a sense that we can get to where we want to be if we just put our minds to it. Ever since I've known her. You see, the first time I remember sitting down with her, it was at Sydney's on Grand Avenue for lunch. Remember that?
It's not even open anymore.
It's not even open anymore. I'm aging myself. And we talked about, this was right before she decided to run for office. And she said, you know, I want to talk to you about something I'm thinking about doing. And as she started talking about this, not once in that conversation did she talk about herself. It was all about her hopes that our state could actually create a healthcare system that worked for everyone. That's what's driven her. This sense of actually making a difference through politics, that it can happen. And you see, when we talk about the politics of joy, Yeah, politics should be fun, but I want you to think about it on a deeper sense about what joy means to people, because that's also what it is about. A sense that people should be able to have a sense that their dreams and their aspirations, their hopes for the future are going to be met, and that someone is going to be willing to stand up and fight for them. And so when we say, be joyful, sure, it's not just about being happy, but it's also about being hopeful for your future. There's no one in this state right now that's giving me more hope, and I hope all of you more hope, than our next governor, Erin Murphy.
How are you doing? Are you really good?
Yeah.
I am so good. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready for this next weekend?
Yes.
All right, me too. I am Erin Murphy, and you know I am a registered nurse. I'm a mom and a state legislator, and I'm the DFL endorsed candidate for governor, and that's a really big damn deal. And we are here on the cusp now of our opportunity to set the course for the state and really for the nation, using the power, our superpower, the vote. And we're here together to launch our effort to get out the vote, which is our chance to talk with our friends and our neighbors about why it is important to come to the polls and vote next Tuesday. I decided to run for governor because I believe in a kind of politics that is about us, the kind that improves our lives, the kind that puts us back in the center of our politics again. And when we stand together and we fight for our shared vision, for our values, we're unstoppable. And I have seen this in us over and over and over again. And for some of you in the room, I'm a little older. But this is how we moved Minnesota Care. By standing together and saying, if people work for a living but they don't have health care, we're going to make that possible. And we organized and we worked hard and we made that the law. That's what we did on renewable energy. That's how they passed the Minnesota Miracle long before I was around. That's how we did marriage equality. This is how we make sustained change in the state of Minnesota and in our democracy across this country. And our politics has moved in a direction in the last number of years that is way too much about beating the other side. Way too much about just getting the votes we need to win the next election. And what's getting lost in that is us and our capacity, our faith in one another to use that powerful tool that I was raised with at my grandma's table, the kind that says politics is positive, politics is purposeful, politics is about us, and when we stand together and fight, we can build a future, a bright future for everybody in the state of Minnesota, and that's exactly what I want to do. So here on the edge of Get Out the Vote, I want you to remember this. This is our moment. This is the start of our movement to show Minnesotans again, with the powerful tool, we can build a future that includes all of us. Together, we can make sure people have health care that they can count on, single-payer health care here in the state of Minnesota. Together, we can make sure our kids get an awesome education regardless of where they live, and we can close the opportunity gap for our kids because every kid's got to get a great education here in the state of Minnesota. Together, we can protect our clean air and our clean water. Together, we can quash racial disparities that are holding people back, and together, we can stand up against the NRA. Take them apart, kick them out of the Capitol, put Minnesotans back at the table again. So we make decisions to protect ourselves and protect our kids. I met a person in St. Cloud a few weeks ago, and he was not a supporter of mine in the beginning of this race, but he came to support our campaign. And he was telling me about all the work that he was going to do in the St. Cloud area between when we spoke and the election. He was going to turn out everybody he knew, everybody in his community. He was going to work really hard. And he was talking to me about a conversation he had with his wife. And his wife said, so what has she promised you that's going to make you work so hard? Why are you digging in so much? Why do you believe in her? What has she promised you? And he said to her, she hasn't promised me anything. But when I listen to her talk, I think it'll be like I'm part of being the governor if she's elected to be the governor, because she'll carry my voice forward. She cares about my concerns, she cares about my community. And if we are doing our jobs right, then our democracy is properly seated in the people who elect us, And Minnesotans will see in us the people who are going to stand up and fight for them. And that is our job in the next 4 days, is to make sure that Minnesotans understand that when we stand together, we are capable of taking on any tough issue. That is our legacy, that is our future. And if we want to change the course of this state, and we want to change the trajectory of this nation, then the answer rests in us. So I'm going to ask you to do your very best over these next how many hours, I don't even know, right? I know that I'm going to be working all of them with just a little bit of sleep in between. But it's going to take all of us and our faith in one another for Minnesotans to see that this is possible, that we can together use this tool, that tool I learned about, to build a future for everybody in the state of Minnesota. That's what I want to do. I need your help. Are you going to do it?
Yes!
Are you going to do it?
Yes!
Are you going to make the government about us again?
Yes!
All right, then let's get out there and do it. Thank you very much. Very much.
All right. We're going to go out and we're going to do some door knocking, I think, after this. So make sure you sign up for some shifts. But I need you to make sure on Tuesday or before that you vote for our endorsed ticket who has primaries. Aaron Murphy and Aaron May Quaid. I need you to vote for Matt Pelican for Attorney General. I need you, well, Julie doesn't have a primary.
Just think about me.
And I need you to vote for Tina Smith. Tina, Aaron, and Matt. Dan doesn't have a primary, thank God, Dan Finn. But you know what? Does he?
Yeah, we do. Our opponent did drop.
Okay, all right. Make sure and vote for Dan as well. But you know what? Here's the deal. On August 15th, the day after, then we got to get to work for our whole ticket. Every single one of them, up and down the ticket. Because this is the year. If we don't win in 2018, there's no way we're going to beat Donald Trump in 2020. And God help us if we let Tim Pawlenty and the Republicans back into the governor's office. We've got to fight hard these next 89 days. Are you ready?
Yes!
All right, let's do it.